Hello, good evening. Welcome to ITV News. This is Monday night's calendar.
Hello and thanks for joining us on the programme tonight.
A community in shock. A 15-year-old boy dies and another is arrested on suspicion of murder following a stabbing at lunchtime inside this school in Sheffield.
Then they started saying go into classrooms and lock the doors, shut the blinds, barricade the doors because they didn't know if the person who had the knife was on the loose.
And it don't feel real, you know, it feels like America, you know, but this is Sheffield, this is crazy.
We'll be live outside the school with the very latest in just a moment. Also coming up in the next half hour.
A year after the XL bully ban came into force, the alarming rise in dangerous dog attacks, including 3 children hurt last week.
The problem goes much further than just one breed of dog becoming popular and pushing up the bite stats. It's a really complex problem and a ban is a bit too simple of a solution.
Is there a 7th in this for Leeds? You bet there is!
It's 7th heaven for the Whites as they crush Cardiff at Elland Road. That and any late business in the transfer market.
And taking the plunge, we join this brave band of open swimmers near York who swear on its benefits to mind and body. So first tonight to a community in shock in Sheffield after a 15-year-old boy was stabbed to death in a school there this lunchtime.
Worried parents gathered outside All Saints Catholic High School as news of the attack emerged. Another 15-year-old boy was arrested at the scene on suspicion of murder. Well, our reporter John Hill has spent the afternoon there and we can cross to him live now. John.
Ian, All Saints Catholic High School remains cordoned off tonight. Just think, ordinarily, perhaps on a Monday evening, some of the 1,300 or so students might have been enjoying after-school clubs. Well, instead tonight, some have turned up, as you can see just behind me, to place balloons and flowers and light candles, a makeshift shrine for one of their own, because today a 15-year-old boy has died, stabbed to death. Another 15-year-old boy is in custody, arrested on suspicion of his murder. And the stark reality of the turn of events that happened here at this school, well, they were underlined just an hour ago with the arrival of a private ambulance operated by a funeral director. So the alarm raised at lunchtime. Pupils and students and staff put into lockdown. And this afternoon, the Assistant Chief Constable of South Yorkshire Police, Lindsay Butterfield, spoke at a news conference.
At 12:17 p.m, emergency services were called to All Saints Catholic High School on Granville Road. The victim, a 15-year-old boy, suffered serious injuries, and despite the best efforts of the ambulance service, he sadly died a short time later. A 15-year-old boy has been arrested on suspicion of murder and remains in our custody at this time. We know that what has happened will cause significant distress and concern. I would like to reassure you that our officers will remain on scene and in the local area to offer reassurance.
Well, there was a huge emergency response here, including the air ambulance. Students and staff, of course, been trying to keep safe inside. Outside, parents gathered, wanted to bring their children to safety.
The staff were scared at first, so they didn't really know what to do. But then they started saying go into classrooms and lock the doors, shut the blinds, barricade the doors because they didn't know if the person who had the knife was on the loose or trying to get other people as well.
We were telling the police guys to say we want to get in and get our children because my son was actually calling me on the phone. Mom, pick me like in the panic mood. So my son is in the panic mood, I need to take my son. They said, no, you can't go in.
And it don't feel real, you know, feels like America, you know, but this is Sheffield, this is crazy.
So shock here, and tonight, to recap, a 15-year-old boy is dead. A 15-year-old boy is in custody on suspicion of murder.
John Hill reporting live from Sheffield for us outside All Saints Catholic High School. And of course our thoughts are with the family of the boy who's died today. You can also get updates on what's happened in Sheffield, of course, on our website. That's at itv.com/calendar, and of course more of the day's news on the website too. So that address again, itv.com/calendar.
Well, next to the rising tide of cases involving dangerous dogs in South Yorkshire, a year since the ban on XL bullies was introduced.
Well, only last week, 3 more children in the area were attacked by dogs. One was seriously injured and sent to hospital. Well, last year, South Yorkshire Police investigated almost 1,800 owners suspected of allowing their dog to be dangerously out of control, causing injuries. That's up from 1,300 the year before. And there's been a 7-fold increase in the number of dogs seized for being a dangerous breed, from 68 in 2023 to 474 last year.
Now, South Yorkshire Police are calling for extra funding, saying that the cost to them of enforcing the ban is astronomical. Michael Billington reports.
The terrifying moment 2 dogs turn on a man in Sheffield last October. In this attack, 3 people were hurt before police marksmen shot one of the animals dead.
So I've got like muscle and nerve damage to like both legs. On my right leg, same again. I had like skin grafts from my thigh onto both.
It's a scene painfully familiar to Paul Coleman. The former postman was subjected to a 15-minute attack by 2 Staffordshire Bull Terriers in Sheffield 17 years ago. Despite lobbying for change to the Dangerous Dogs Act, he believes in that time little has been done to keep people safe.
Yeah, people still at risk. Yeah, to me, any dog can change. It's not just them 5-6 breeds. There will be a percentage. If it's 10%, if it's 1%, we'll have that type of dog for that reason, to protect and to look menacing.
It's now a year since XL bullies were banned. In that time, South Yorkshire Police has seen dog attacks continue to rise. Just today, police have released details of 3 more dog attacks on children in South Yorkshire in the space of just 3 days last week. One of the victims, a 16-year-old girl, was seriously injured. The other 2 children were aged just 7 years old.
The problem goes much further than just one breed of dog becoming popular and pushing up the bite stats. There's a lot behind that: socio-economic issues, training problems, the owners and how they were dealing with it. But essentially what the ban is a hammer to crack a nut.
Handling seized dogs is becoming costly as well, possibly as much as £25 million between now and April, according to the Police Chiefs Council, putting, they say, a huge burden on policing.
We're not given any additional funding in response to the ban that was introduced by the government. So police officer time, kit and equipment, vehicles, and then the kennelling costs. The costs to UK police forces in looking after the dogs that have had to be seized is astronomical, frankly.
The Home Office says that police funding will increase by more than £1 billion next year. But after years of attacks and fatalities, there remain plenty of questions about the dogs allowed on our streets and just how to police them. Michael Billington, ITV News in Sheffield.
You're watching Monday night's calendar. Still to come.
It's Willie Nonto. He's just come on for Leeds and he's got a goal. Would you believe it?
Magnificent 7. Leeds run riot against Cardiff with their best win in 50 years. That and the rest of the sport shortly.
And after a quiet start to the week, it's all changed in the next 24 hours. Some blustery wet weather moving through before it turns colder and clearer. I've got all the details for you coming up shortly.
But first, a man involved in the killing of an 18-year-old in Leeds in a row between rival drugs gangs has been jailed for 15 years. Renai Wilkes was part of a gang and 3 of them set upon Jamie Meir and a 16-year-old boy as they sat in a taxi in Armley.
Jamie suffered fatal stab wounds from a sword used in the attack and the boy was seriously injured with a machete. From Leeds Crown Court, Sally Simpson reports.
Jamie Meir was a passenger in a taxi being driven along Hall Lane in Leeds on the 31st of March 2023 when Renai Wilkes and 3 others pulled up alongside the taxi in a Mercedes. Those 3 men got out armed with a machete which was used to attack 16-year-old Kane Priestley and a large sword used to inflict fatal wounds on Jamie Meir, who was 18. After a trial, the jury convicted Wilkes of the manslaughter of Jamie Meir, grievous bodily harm on Kane Priestley and the possession of a bladed weapon. Sentencing him to 15 years, the judge said Wilkes played a secondary role in the attacks. encouraging others and being aware of their plans. All 4 men, Wilkes, Aquaid Jeffers, Caleb Orr and Inam Nishat, fled to Ireland following the attacks. Wilkes was arrested on his return to the UK from Turkey. The other 3 are still on the run. West Yorkshire Police said today efforts to bring them to justice continue.
Renai Wilkes will now have a long time in prison to think about his actions that day and the decisions he took to go out armed with other individuals. This is an ongoing murder inquiry and an active murder inquiry, and we still are looking for 3 other individuals for the murder of Jamie Meir.
The court heard from Jamie Meir's partner Evie, who said she gave birth to the couple's baby boy 7 months after Jamie's death. She said her life will never be the same again, as she's left to bring up their baby who will never know his father. In a statement, Jamie Meir's family said anyone who is prepared to carry a weapon should understand the devastation it causes when it is used. Too many young lives are being taken in violent circumstances, leaving heartbroken families to pick up the pieces. Sally Simpson, ITV News, Leeds.
Bradford residents face a 10% increase in council tax after the government gave council bosses special permission to hike prices.
The authority had asked for permission to increase council tax by as much as 15%, but the Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner said the council's financial distress must be balanced with the interests of taxpayers.
Our political correspondent Sharon-Preet Carer joins us now. Sharon-Preet, why has the government given this proposal the green light then?
To put it simply, Lara, the council says it's in the red, and if it doesn't raise more revenue from its residents, it'll have to borrow an extra £140 million over the next 5 years. As you say, they wanted to increase prices by 15%. Councils can already up their prices by 5% a year. Anything additional to that requires government approval, and while 15% was deemed too high a price for residents, the government did give the go-ahead to a 10% rise, more than any other council in the country.
So what does this mean for residents then?
Well, if you crunch the numbers for a resident in Council Tax Band A, that's about 40% of people in Bradford. This will be an extra £110 a year. On the other end of the scale, for people in Band H, it's more like £340 a year. Independent councillor Ishtiaq Ahmed says it's those who are already struggling who will feel this pinch the most.
This increase will hit the most vulnerable and the most marginalised, given the fact that Bradford has high levels of deprivation, 1 in 3 children live in poverty, and you know, the city is one of the lowest income brackets and higher than national average unemployment rates. So this will really hit the most vulnerable and the most marginalised in our communities.
Well, council bosses say that the council tax paid by residents currently in Bradford is well below the national average, and even after this increase, people there will be paying less than most others across West Yorkshire. They've justified this price hike by saying that 14 years of cuts under the previous Tory government have hit Bradford hard. But remember, it's only been a month since the City of Culture was launched, and some residents will be wondering if it's right for the council to spend money on that with one hand while taking from residents with the other. Well, the council will meet to finalise its budget in March, and if this is approved, as is expected, residents will start paying the price from April.
Yes, very interesting. Thanks, Sharon-Preet, live in Westminster for us.
Meanwhile, controversial parking charges are to come into force at 5 Leeds parks from next Monday. The 5 parks are Golden Acre Park, Otley Shevin, Roundhay Park, Temple Newsome and Middleton Park, where the charges will only apply at the Urban Bike Park. Motorists will have to pay £1 for up to 2 hours parking, £2.50 for half a day and £4 for a full day. Blue badge holders will be exempt from the charges, which will apply 7 days a week between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m.
Meanwhile, thousands of shop staff who work for Leeds-based Asda could be in line for historic payouts after the biggest ever equal pay claim in the private sector. A court ruling today made clear that many of the roles on Asda's shop floors, carried out mainly by women, are of equal value to the better paid ones in the supermarket's warehouses, which are predominantly filled by men. Asda denies its pay rates are discriminatory, but unions say the ruling could pave the way for a payout to staff of more than £1 billion.
It's not quite a victory yet because there's still another stage to go. They've proved that they do work of equal value to warehouse workers, but then Asda can then come back and say, well, actually, yes, that's the case, that's what's been found. For some, or the majority, but not all of the cases, but it's then they can then turn around and say, well, actually, there's a very good reason called a material factor defence, which says this is why these men are paid more than these women.
Plumbers, electricians and other tradespeople travelled to Westminster today calling for greater action on tool theft. They want the government to strengthen punishments for those convicted of stealing tools and to improve regulation of second-hand tools to remove their incentives for criminals. Among their number was Andy Calm, a plumber from Sheffield, who's lost thousands of pounds through repeated tool thefts.
We're fed up of having our tools stolen out of our vehicles and nothing getting done about it. So the fines that they give to the people are around about £80, which is not good enough when they've ruined our vehicles and stolen £6,000 or £10,000 worth of materials. We can't work, we've got anxiety problems, a lot of the guys have got mental health problems.
And what do you want the government to do?
Well, I want them to listen and I want them to actually do something about it.
New vaccination sites have opened in Leeds and Sheffield to make it easier to access jabs to protect against mpox. Previously known as monkeypox, the rare infection is most commonly found in parts of Central and East Africa. The risk of catching it in the UK is low for most people. However, there were a number of cases in 2022. The NHS is urging those who are eligible to come forward.
Now, the ITV evening news continues at 6:30, which also features today fatal stabbing in Sheffield, of course. Here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up at 6:30, a 15-year-old student is stabbed to death at a school in Sheffield. We'll have the very latest from the scene as another 15-year-old boy is arrested on suspicion of murder. As Donald Trump's trade war against his neighbours heats up, could the UK be next? And a new report card for school inspections. We will explain how it works. Would you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
Thank you, Mary. We will. Now then, time for some sport, and it's football's transfer deadline day.
Xero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
Yes, luckily Chris is in the studio with us because it's a busy old night ahead, isn't it?
It is. Well, we'll see, won't we, over the next few hours, I guess. We've got, just under 5 hours to go until the transfer window closes. Sheffield United are the team to keep an eye on. They're targeting a new defender with Rob Holding at Crystal Palace, the latest name linked. A loan deal for the 29-year-old, the likely scenario. Meanwhile, it's been reported that the Blades AI transfer model, that's artificial intelligence, has identified 2 foreign attacking players who could also join before the deadline at 11 p.m. It's the modern world, folks. And Leeds are reportedly keen on a new striker with Southampton's former Sheffield United man, Cameron Archer. The name linked.
Now then, of course, after the weekend, Chris, Leeds don't need a new goal scorer, do they?
I don't know, Ian. They'll always argue, won't they, that you can always do with more goal scorers. But I know what you mean. On Saturday, Leeds racked up their biggest win since March 1972. Back then, a pint of milk was 6p, the average house price, just over £5,000, and a brand new Ford Cortina would have set you back £963. Well, on Saturday, Leeds were more like a turbocharged Lamborghini, quick out of the blocks and 2 up against Cardiff within 13 minutes, thanks to goals from Brendan Aronson and Manor Solomon. Then came something of a lull before Dan James scored 5 minutes after half-time. A Joel Piroux penalty made it 4-0, and 2 minutes later, Willie Nonto scored with practically his first touch after coming off the bench. Matteo Joseph brought up the 6th of the afternoon, and the scoring was rounded off in stoppage time when Piroux rolled in his second, so 7-0, equalling Don Reevy's Leeds and their famous demolition of Southampton 53 years ago.
Once in a lifetime thing.
7-0. So yeah, brilliant. Every single player, I would say every single chance seemed to go in, but it actually didn't. We could have been, I think 7-0 didn't particularly flatter us in the end. But yeah, just a brilliant day. It's not a standard score, is it? And yeah, certainly at Ellen Road, is that a high point for my life now? Is that the end? Shall I just retire?
You never know, Michael, who says they won't get 8 before the end of the season. Well, despite that big scoreline, it didn't actually extend Leeds' lead at the top of the Championship table, because Sheffield United are just 2 points back after Ben Brayton-Diaz scored his first since returning to the Blades to give them a 1-0 win at Derby. Elsewhere, Sheffield Wednesday drew 1-1 with Luton. The only way to stop Jedi Gassama was by fouling him. That gave Michael Smith the chance to score Wednesday's equaliser from the penalty spot. There were no winners in League One, but Doncaster remained second in League Two after a 4th straight win. Rob Street with the winner in a 2-1 victory against the MK Dons. And Josh March scored for Harrogate in a 1-1 draw with Crewe. Now, 2 of our region's boxers were in action over the weekend. Rotherham's Junaid Boston failed to get his hands on the English belt after drawing his fight with Bilal Fawaz, whereas Callum Simpson from Barnsley, here in the white trunks, showed why many are tipping him for a bright future with a 5th round stoppage of Elvis Hahorga at Wembley Arena. All the more impressive as Callum was given just 2 weeks' notice for that fight. And finally from me, it could prove to have been a pivotal weekend for the Sheffield Steelers in their defence of ice hockey's Elite League title. After winning 5-2 at Glasgow on Saturday, the Steelers returned to the arena yesterday to inflict a 3-0 defeat on Cardiff. It means that with results elsewhere going in their favour, the Steelers are up to 2nd in the league standings and have also cut the gap to leaders Belfast to 7 points. The Steelers also have a game in hand. And that is your lot from me. I might be busy later on in the night if there's more transfers going through, but you know, I'm always busy, aren't I?
Well, you were busy just then, weren't you?
Busy weekend. 7 goals at Leeds.
I know.
Make sure you get some sleep though, will you?
I'll do my best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, think back to your primary school assemblies. Perhaps you were sitting cross-legged on a drafty floor and singing catchy hymns that you can probably remember all the words to, even to this day. How about you?
Oh yeah, well I could probably give it a go if I had to. I remember the old piano being played and it's all singing along, yeah.
I played the recorder.
Oh, did you?
Badly.
Very good.
Yes,
well,
very
maybe
badly.
unbelievably, it's songs like that which are selling out shows for a music teacher turned performer.
Yes, James Partridge is bringing his latest tour here to our region, and he'll be in Selby in March. Well, our favourite choir boy, James Webster, has been finding out which assembly bangers have got people singing along.
It is arguably the most unlikely set list to get a crowd going.
Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away.
But James Partridge, a piano and a book of classic school assembly songs is proving very popular indeed.
What has really just impressed me is actually how up for it people are, even from the first song. People start singing away. I don't have to encourage them that much because I thought, right, we're going to need to do warm-ups. We're going to have to get everyone going, getting up on their feet. But I've been really impressed by how many people have just properly gone for it. I'm going to talk a bit about all of my go-to warm-ups that I do.
It started with videos for his classes during lockdown.
One more step along the world I go.
But the audience grew wider.
There's water, water of life.
From there, I was performing online 3 or 4 times a week, and people were tuning in and kept requesting these school assembly songs.
And now it's turned into this.
Yes, very good, great actions.
I started teaching music 33 years ago, so all these songs are just in there, in the back of the brain.
Magic Penny was the first song I ever learnt at school. I think I was 5, and I can still remember my teacher, Mrs. Smith, teaching us Magic Penny.
I loved From the Tiny Ant. That was my favourite. I massively remember doing that as a... I liked the man that built his house upon the rocks. Yeah, with the action.
James started his latest set of shows this weekend.
A lot of these songs have stayed with people for a long time, but also a lot of them haven't been heard for decades.
How much has it taken you by surprise, the affection that people have for these songs?
It has massively taken me by surprise. If you had told me, let's say 5 years ago, that would be the case, I'd say you're absolutely joking. But the more I posted online, the more people said, oh, that sounds really fun. Do you remember this book from school? People were reconnecting with their childhoods. And I feel like it really unlocks something in a lot of people where they missed that communal experience of being in a room full of people singing together. I've turned it into a form where you can get involved and do the actions and people will stand up by the end and start dancing.
So a music teacher by day and sell-out shows on an evening. Some might say he's got the whole world in his hands. James Webster, ITV News.
One more time.
No, I'm not going to sing, but it does take you back. It does. Well, it takes me back anyway to being about 8 years old.
Yeah.
So you can catch James on the 27th of March in Selby and on the 28th of March in Otley Courthouse if you want to have a bit of a sing-along.
Definitely. Now then, with signs of spring around the corner, your thoughts might be turning to getting out and about in the fresh air. Well, how about a dip in some very fresh water? Open water swimming is growing in popularity and the mental and physical health benefits are many. At Poolbridge Farm, nature reserve near York, swimming and socialising go hand in hand. Visitor numbers have surged in the last 2 years, with many people taking refuge in its tranquil surroundings and making valuable friendships along the way, even if some say they must be mad.
Yeah, we are. Easy answer. You just get so much out of it, it's such a buzz. I think I would never swim on my own in the cold. We always come with friends, which makes it really good. And here, obviously, you've got the cafe as well, so kind of makes it, you look forward to the cafe and the socialising as much as the quick dip in the icy water.
Maybe I am, but it's a good mad, and there's plenty of us who are mad and enjoying it, and I think it brings a lot of joy and happiness to our lives.
Certainly very brave. Well, to find out more on that exclusive story in full and all of Calendar's coverage on ITVX, just go to the ITVX app on your smart TV phone or online. And then what you need to do is click on categories, then click on news, and you scroll down to find the link. And while you're there, you can also catch up on our latest programmes, some of the best stories that we've been covering, and other exclusive content for ITVX on demand.
Yes, if you've missed tonight's programme, well, you can watch it again on ITVX. Now then, the weather. Here's Lucy.
Today's forecast: seafood and sugar cube towns. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Good evening to you. Lots of cloud with some blustery wet weather moving through in the next 24 hours, and then brighter skies make a return. Welcome winter sunshine, but turning colder come the middle of the week as temperatures slide. We see frosty nights once more. It's this system rolling in from the west that will provide some blustery wet weather through the course of tomorrow. Behind this, turning calmer and clearer. And as high pressure re-establishes itself from the south, settled calm conditions as we roll through the rest of the week. But as you can see from the bluey colours returning to the map, feeling so much colder. Temperatures set to slide, chilly days and frosty nights. As for the next few hours, we've got generally fine conditions for a time, a mixture of cloud and clearer skies. Where we've got the clearer skies for long enough, temperatures dip a few degrees, turning just a little chillier in sheltered rural spots, just 3 or 4 degrees in the most remote spots here, but otherwise generally staying frost-free as we head into a new day. And we'll see a mixture of winter sunshine and cloud as we slide into Tuesday morning, and then the clouds will thicken as rain arrives from the west. Several hours of solid substantial rain across the Pennines. Horrible if you're having to travel. Quite blustery winds whipping up. Quite a blowy afternoon as that rain makes some headway from west to east. But look at those temperatures, highs of 11 or 12 degrees, so relatively mild given the time of year. As the rest of the week wears on, changes in store. Behind the rain, settling down quite nicely, better, brighter skies, but temperatures are sliding a fair few degrees. Chilly days, cold and frosty nights to come.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
A little bit chilly. Would you go wild water swimming in when it's chilly?
Not in this weather, Lara. No, thank you.
Not even in
not
the
for
summer,
me.
probably.
Definitely not. That's all from us, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
ITV Evening News is next with Mary, but from all of us here, a very good night.
Good night.